Hello and welcome back to another episode of your favourite educational podcast.
Oh. That's it, I'm not going.
I am new to the feeling of positivity. There's a quote. I think it's the only quote I remember from any book ever. And it's actually from a Roald Dahl book. I think Roald Dahl is cancelled in death because he's a Nazi or something. But it's from the Twits. And it's something like, if you think happy thoughts, they will shine out of your face like sunbeams.
And you will always look lovely.
It's something like that, and that's what I wish to emulate. No matter your actual objective appearance, your subjective appearance can be changed by your mindset. I'm coming out of hibernation, no longer seasonally depressed, just regular depressed. This is vintage Ash Callaghan content. Current obsessions. I'm looking at myself rather than at you in the viewfinder. Because I'm obsessed with myself. But do ignore that. Anyway, okay. First obsession. This video is sponsored by Incogni. I love clothes. I love buying clothes. But recently, what with attempting a personal rebirth and extensive wardrobe makeover, I've realised there's actually something I enjoy even more than clothes. And that's clothes on sale. I find something niche and chic and decide instantly I must have it, only to find it is extortionately priced. Of course, I realise in order to make clothes that are worth buying both for me and for the people who make it, this is the fairest price point. So when already mentally committed to a purchase, there's nothing better than a little window popping up with a discount code. But as I'm sure you've heard, ain't nothing in this world for free. So in order to receive 10% off my first order and free shipping, I have to sign up to a newsletter. I have to sign up to something, and I sign up to everything, unknowingly paying for a discount code with my personal details. And then I get that little message, your package is being delivered, click here. And because you best believe there's always something being delivered, I click away and get scammed for way more than 10% of a nice top. But luckily, Incogni can help me. There's an entire industry of data brokers buying and selling the information you give online. Your name, phone number, email, address, and it can all get passed around until it ends up in the hands of scammers. Incogni contacts data brokers on your behalf and requests they remove your personal data. And if a broker drags their feet, Incogni follows up and keeps pushing, because your info can reappear. So they submit removal requests whenever your data is leaked, repeatedly, and all of this is automated. Incogni have also introduced custom removals, where you can send Incogni a link to a specific website that's exposing your details, and their privacy experts will get it removed for you, and you can track the progress while they do all the work. If you want to take back your personal information, go to incogni.com/Callaghan and use my code Callaghan for 60% off an annual plan. We may now resume. Number 1, you've all heard of them before, Vibram 5 Fingers. They are currently, trend-wise, declining in popularity, which is a great thing for me, and I am actually greatly enjoying it because it means I can get them for a lot less money again. Just a little recap for you. The popularity of 5 Fingers was largely accredited to the barefoot running movement, which in turn was largely accredited to Born to Run, which was published in, I believe, 2010, 2014, 2009. This is off the top of the dome, so do forgive me if I'm wrong. I will present the correct information on screen, but I'm not normally wrong. They became largely popular due to the barefoot running trend, but Vibram then got caught in a nasty lawsuit over claims that they were basically good for your feet, good for running, when actually there was no scientific basis behind this, because like everything you see online, it's a lie, and led to the Vibram 5 Finger downfall. We then saw them again with their collaboration with Balenciaga, but that was pretty unattainable for the masses, the average pauper. They were expensive and bizarre. However, I believe that with the rise in popularity of the tabby, 5 Finger became popular again, a more extreme version of the tabby. And as fashion stands today, that is how fashion is progressing. We just look for the more extreme version of the thing that exists currently. This was a very short-lived trend. They very quickly rose to popularity, became very incredibly popular, and then fell off very incredibly quickly as well. So now we're left with a load of used toe shoes on Vinted, which, to be honest, I'm buying, so it's fine. But anyway, the Vibram 5 Finger is not actually the concept I wanted to talk to you about. The concept is accessorizing your Vibram 5 Finger. It is an eco-conscious decision to make to, despite something being out of trend to continue to wear it, but you just have to renew your love for it. How do we do that? We create something new. We create a new concept. We create a new way of wearing them, and that's the concept I'm talking about. And the first one is a toe ring atop a 5-finger. That's interesting. I think it's, if you'll excuse the colloquialism, I think that's fun. That is the epitome of the Ash Callaghan rebrand. We are looking at things that are fun. We need to remind ourselves why we loved the vibrant 5-finger. It's not enough to just be a frog shoe anymore. You have to accessorize. Following the toe ring, it reminded me of, actually, I think the image that first got me interested in the vibrant 5-finger, which was the vibrant 5-finger inside of a flip-flop. I just thought the concept of shoe on shoe was really rather interesting. And this can be done with other shoes as well. Another thing that I'm thinking of is the sort of Russian felted shoes with a separate rubber sole, which I find incredibly interesting. So you have the felted boots, which one can have a rubber sole sort of integrated into them, but also you can have a separate rubber sole that you add to them. The idea of shoe on shoe I find incredibly interesting. I think it's fun. Another thing, something that I've mentioned before, if you're a vintage Ash Callaghan listener, is, again, looking at Vibram, the Vibram performance sole, which you will clamp on to your already existing shoes as extra traction. Hang on a minute, let me show you. Good evening. I have to sit in the right place now. Why am I suddenly ugly? What I was getting for you were these. Oh, goodness gracious, they're incredibly dirty. They're also dropping bits of shit on my lap. I don't want to put them down because they're actually wet. But anyway, what I was going to say was, this is how you really wear a pair of Salomons. If you can't see, the tread is completely worn down on the toe and the heel. And actually, here, that's a hole that I squished a stone into because stones were getting into it and rattling round and making the hole bigger. So I just ended up squishing one in there. It would stop the rattling round and it would stop making it bigger. I can't put them down because they're really wet because I was outside. Anyway, the idea of these performance soles would be you can clamp them onto an existing shoe to give yourself extra tread. And I just thought that might be useful for a worn out pair of trainers. Basically, I'm going to put these away now, and I don't want to put them down on the carpet because they're covered in shit. It's me again. What was I talking about?
2 hours later.
So, yes, I was talking about shoe on shoe, the Vibram 5-fingers. Okay, so next thing I want to talk to you about along the shoe vein is ballet flats. Trainers at the moment are not quite as popular as they have been in recent history. At the moment, the most fashionable option is, for men, will be a loafer, for the women will be a ballet flat. I mean, in general, just the trainer isn't quite as fashionable, but, popular alternatives include, but are not limited to, the loafer and the ballet flat. The concept that I wanted to share with you and that I'm really thoroughly enjoying is, I'm not actually quite sure what you call it, that little bit that sticks up your foot, right? In the middle, it's all one piece of material. That is the thing that I am talking about. I'm just not quite sure what to call it. The toe cleavage covering. That is what we are analysing today. I have been particularly enamoured with the Chanel ballet flats. Chanel do a wide range of ballet flats, but particularly I'm interested at the moment in the Chanel cambon. Cambon. I assume it's French. Cambon. Cambon. Escargot. Oui. Paris. Anyway, I'm particularly interested in the Chanel cambon flats at the moment. And the reason why I love them quite so much, as opposed to the other Chanel ballet flats, is because the toe cleavage covering is so long. I really like that detail. And so then I went down a little rabbit hole of finding a similar silhouette. I like this flat shoe with a long toe box. I also really enjoy the Kensington Mule by Balenciaga. I just like it. There's no other reason other than I like it. That's fair enough. Oh, earthquake! Next thing I want to talk to you about, again with sort of the idea of reinvigorating old trends, something that came about last year was the Olsen tuck, and everyone was really obsessed with the Olsen tuck. Trench coat button to the top with your hair tucked into it was the thing. I'm not sure if people are still doing that. If people aren't doing it, it's something that we can reimagine and re-enjoy. I guess the concept that I want to talk to you about is hair as an accessory. Rather than accessorizing your hair, using your hair to accessorize. So I have a couple of instances where I found this interesting. So one is just the sort of Olsen tuck, the hair inside the collar. But I think that there's interesting ways to do this. So for example, collar on collar, different sort of shapes and silhouettes of the collar line and how this interacts with how your hair lies on it. Another thing that I found quite interesting was a hole in a piece of clothing for your hair. And I've seen that on a couple of occasions, and every time I find it, I think, oh, that's fun. Another reference that I find quite interesting is the Autumn-Winter 2003 Junior Watanabe runway show. He wrapped the model's hair around their neck as sort of like a scarf. I love the show. I'm sure I've spoken about before the tweed hats. I absolutely adore the tweed hats. And this is how I came across the show. Wrapping the hair around the neck, I just think it's fun. Next thing on my list I want to talk to you about, current obsession, children's clothes. Not specifically child's clothes, but rather the proportions of children's clothing and scaling that up to adult wear. This is not a concept I invented. In fact, actually, quite famously, Mason Margiela has an exhibition in the Metropolitan Museum of Art for his doll collection. He took the measurements and proportions of dolls' clothing and scaled it upwards to create adult-sized clothing, but with the proportions of doll-like clothing. I adore this. The proportions of child's clothing, doll's clothing, is so cute, is the best word I can use to describe it. Short and stout and plump. The attention to detail in the Mason Margiela collection with the thickness of the yarn used is just phenomenal. I love it. I adore it. Also, just if you look at sort of baby clothes and child's clothing, such cute proportions to it. And I think that this is, I don't know, can I say this is a 2026 prediction? I don't know, maybe. With the popularity of pea coats and these sort of short-sleeved swing coats with the little puff sleeves and the 3 buttons at the top, you know what I'm talking about. The popularity of them, I think, feeds into this childlike, not just way of dressing, but the childlike proportions of clothing. And I think we'll be seeing it more. And I really hope we do. And if we don't, I will be wearing it. I'll be doing it myself. I think it's probably quite easy to interpret. If you look at a knitting pattern for a child and scale it upwards, I don't know how to knit, so maybe it's not quite that easy. But yes, child's clothing is something that I've been particularly interested in. Current obsession, if you will. Next on my list is penny lane coats or Afghan coats, whatever you want to call them. These fur trim coats, right? I don't really have anything to say about these other than I really enjoy the way they look. I am a sucker for a long coat. If you are a friend of the channel, you'll know that I hate cropping. I do not like anything cropped. I much prefer long line versions of things. Long fur trim penny lane Afghan coats. I think they're wonderful. They must have volume. So the ones that you get that are kind of like this flimsy material from Urban Outfitters and like a sort of just this like wispy feathery material is not particularly what I'm interested in. I really thoroughly enjoy the proper heavy voluminous wool vintage sheepskin coats is what I enjoy most. There's such a difference in aesthetic to polyester Urban Outfitters version of a sheepskin wool vintage penny lane coat. The texture that I mentioned to it, the way it hangs on the body is just completely different. It's incomparable really, or rather you can compare it and just one comes out on top. Okay, and finally, knitwear and knitting. I really need to learn how to knit because I really want to learn how to knit a roll neck sweater. I absolutely love fisherman sweaters. I'm sure I've spoken about it before on the channel, but you really cannot find machine-made general store available options of a roll neck fisherman sweater. I find that generally they have an intentional neck to them. The only option I have found is these handmade boutique Irish wool sweaters they are handmade. You just don't tend to get them on an industrial scale process. And I just thought that instead of buying, I thought it would be rather nice to knit something myself. I just really like the detail of that rolled neck and rolled sleeves and rolled hem at the bottom, rather than finishing it off. And I just find that that's something that you only really encounter on a handmade jumper. And that's all I have for today. I really hope you enjoyed that episode. I'm now going to have lunch because it's 1 o'clock. And I'm hungry. I bought some pink lady apples today. I thought you might be interested. We are really channeling vintage Ash Callaghan here, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So, as the saying goes, like and subscribe, and I will see you again next week. And hopefully next week I will be talking about the sort of theory behind the rebrand, which I think you will enjoy. I know you'll enjoy it. Subscribe, 30-day money-back guarantee. You can stop it whenever you want during the 30 days. Bye! Poof. Poof. My recording deleted! If I appear annoyed in the video that you actually end up seeing, it is because this is the second time I am filming it. I'm gonna film again now. It's a hard life.
Oh. Ah. That's it, I'm not going.